Those are the examples that you gave were primarily around the human issues of implementing these models, correct? It's not necessarily inherent problems in the model itself, but
yes,
it's the problems that people have trying to stick to those rules, or that they fall back on old habits, etc. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, yeah. So for those of you who couldn't hear on the phone, so you know, is the source of the challenges in Agile primarily human issues or political issues, if you will, or are they inherent in the model? And the ones that I'm talking about here are they're primarily issues of say improper or thoughtless is a harsh word, but let me just use it for lack of a better one, thoughtless implementation of the model, right? So either people have deliberately left out part of the model because they say, well, you know, I like this Agile stuff, but the 40-hour work week, no way, I'm not going to commit to that. So, you know, I want to be Agile and I want to work my team like dogs, you know. So that's deliberately, improperly implementing the model, and then that's going to result in things like overcommitment and so forth, right? Then there's the stuff that's just thoughtless, like the silo problem, right? That when you're working in an environment where there are a lot of iterations going on in parallel on things that have to talk to each other, you got to deal with the interoperability and system integration problem, right? So that transcends the question of the development model that's going to be used for any given application, right? So it's literally outside the scope of the Agile development methodology, right? So some of these things are just, you know, failing to deal with things that are problems that are outside the scope of the methodology. Some are improper implementation of the methodology. There are some that are inherent in Agile itself, for example, related to the typical level of documentation that's being gathered and how to make sure that that's optimized for a testing team. And I did a whole webinar on Agile testing challenges, and if you want, you can find the recorded version of that on the RBCS website. There are some challenges that are inherent even in a proper implementation of Agile, and just like there are problems that are inherent even in a proper implementation of a V model. I mean, every life cycle has its pros and cons, including from a testing point of view. So, great question. Another in the back?
So, I just wanted to add, one thing I didn't hear you talk about is there's also this issue with Agile that I found that there's a certain level of expectation. People have this vague idea of what Agile is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fast. I can change this. I can do that. And what we found is, especially when we come to deal with our business proponents, is that they really don't have the same understanding of how it really works.
Yeah, that's very true. I was at a defense industry conference not too long ago. Now think about this as defense, right? And one of the speakers started talking about Agile, and I usually try to refrain from doing this. You know, I give a lot of public presentations myself, and I hate it when somebody jumps up and tries to pull the loose thread on the sweater, you know. But he was talking about Agile, and it just didn't seem to be as well thought through as it could have been. So I did the obnoxious thing, stuck my hand up in the air and said, could you define for me exactly what you mean by Agile here? Because we see a lot of our clients got a lot of variability in what their expectations are. Well, anyway, this resulted in a series of back and forth between me and this speaker that finally he came out and said, well, basically the only thing that we can really find that people mean when they say Agile is faster. You know? So yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about, right? It's all this expectation thing. They hear Agile, they think, oh, faster, cheaper implementation of the same set of features I want anyway, right? In other words, it's free lunch, and I think that's huge. Yeah, I don't know that that's anything that necessarily is organizational challenge for testing, right? So it's kind of outside the scope of this particular presentation, but there's this whole kind of political issue, right, of how within an organization you effectively manage what you will and will not be able to do with a given set of resources in a given period of time, and to what level of quality. And there are no magic solutions to that, right? Agile isn't magic. Do we have other questions? Yeah, please.
So I'm confused with your system testing slide grouped with other methodologies.
Oh, system integration? This one? Yeah.
So I understand sequential testing, agile methodology, iterative methodology. These are all methodologies which we can pick and choose, or we can combine or customize to the organization. But to big organizations like ours, the system integration testing seems to be unavoidable. So why do you group this with the methodology which is optional?
Precisely because of what you said, that it is unavoidable, but unfortunately, a lot of times it is avoided. We've seen this with clients in a similar scope as yours here, the anonymous scope, but just for people on the phone, this is an organization that's very, very large. I see you have multinational operations, right? So, but large financial, large suite of applications, probably more than 100 applications in your data center, right? So we have seen clients that have that scale of complexity, yet nobody's responsible for system integration. And furthermore, they even have stuff that's not even built in-house, but is being delivered by external organizations, dropped into their data center. Nobody's responsible for the integration testing of that. It gets acceptance tested based on a set of siloed requirements when it comes in, but nothing else. And then people are shocked when stuff doesn't work together. So that's the reason that I wanted to be real clear about this, is that a lot of what we have to do as testers is not just about testing at the end of a development life cycle that's focused on developing a particular set of features for a particular set of applications or single application, but rather is about how an entire suite of applications, perhaps 100 or more in a data center in some cases, work together. And this isn't just limited to IT organizations such as yours. This is also for enterprise software companies like our other client CA that I mentioned, or companies like Microsoft that develop large, complex, mass market products. The expectation more and more is everything works together, right? I mean, you have a smartphone, right? And you expect to be able to go off to some website and do telephone banking on your phone, right? Or web-based banking on your phone. And what's going to happen when you go, oh, I've got Safari on this thing, and guess what? There's no Flash, right? So that's why I wanted to be really clear about this. This is unavoidable. It is something we have to think about organizationally, and it gets even more complicated when stuff is being built by outside vendors. So thank you for pointing that out. We have other questions in the audience before let me go to the submitted questions. We've got some here. A minute to